My brother was a twisted, obsessive maniac. When I was 10, our parents were murdered. I broke both my legs saving him. I became his only family, his untouchable sanctuary. Those who mocked me for being disabled had their bones shattered by his own hands. Those who dared to touch me were ground into mincemeat. Later, he seized our family's assets and became a living devil that no one in Sea City dared to offend. Yet he spoiled me like a little princess. Everyone knew that you couldn't touch the young Miss Gu. He sent me to the best institutions abroad for treatment. On the day I finally stood up again, I received my brother's wedding invitation. "Yo-yo, we're about to have a new family," he had said. I heard that my future sister-in-law was a wealthy heiress, gentle and virtuous. I dressed my best to meet her, hoping to give her the jade bracelet my mother had left behind. But instead, she had me dragged to an abandoned construction site. "You little slut, you temptress. I'm going to peel off that face of yours that seduces men, and then see how you'll steal my man." She smashed my mother's keepsake, broke my limbs, peeled off my face, and brought over a dozen men to torture me to death. Finally, she packed my corpse into a small box and sent it to my brother. "Darling, this is our wedding gift. Do you like it?" The beautiful gift box containing my corpse was delivered to my brother. My face had been ripped off, leaving behind only a bloody mess, my arms and legs twisted at grotesque angles. My little dress was torn to shreds, my body covered in marks of abuse, blood mixing with my internal organs, a horrific sight. Only yesterday I was on the phone, sweetly whining to my brother, and now I was stuffed into a box like a broken rag doll, waiting for him to open it himself. Today was my brother's engagement party. As I walked out of the airport, I immediately saw the woman surrounded by a crowd. It was Bella, my brother's fiancée. After my brother started dating, I kept pestering him about the details of their relationship. In his words, Bella was beautiful and gentle. Despite her wealthy background, she never bullied anyone. She was a pure and kind-hearted girl. So the moment I saw her, I felt an unexpected warmth in my heart. She seemed to recognize me and walked towards me with a group of people. Thinking she was there to pick me up, I immediately smiled, planning to give her the bracelet my mother had left for her daughter-in-law. But what greeted me was a heavy slap. My vision blurred and I froze on the spot. Before I could react, my hair was grabbed and pulled downwards, throwing me off balance, and I fell to the ground. A pointed, high-heeled shoe stomped on my hand. "Ah!" I cried out in pain, but Bella's fingers dug into my cheeks, her sharp nails piercing my skin. "You little slut, you bitch. Still trying to seduce my man. Is that how you scream in a man's bed?" Tears of pain welled up in my eyes, and I shook my head repeatedly. "What are you talking about? I didn't seduce." Before I could finish, Bella slapped me again. "Playing the victim after stealing my man? Let me tell you, I'm about to marry Ethan, and you show up now. What else could it be but to steal my man?" My mouth filled with a metallic taste of blood. My cheeks were swollen and I mumbled, "You've misunderstood. There's nothing inappropriate between my brother and me." Her face darkened instantly, and she kicked me hard in the chest. "You two-faced bitch. Who are you calling brother? That's just how you use that seductive face to lure him in." She pulled out a recording pen from her pocket. "Listen to how slutty you sound." The recording was my voice and my brother's. Ethan's voice was gentle and doting. Bella's face darkened further. The recording was not complete, but it captured our goodnight conversation, which to outsiders could easily be misinterpreted. I wanted to explain, but her little follower looked at me with disdain. "I've never heard Mr. Goose speak so gently to anyone. You must be quite skilled, you homewrecker." Her words poured fuel onto the fire, and Bella's face twisted with rage. "Don't think that just because you have a pretty face you can steal Ethan from me. Let me tell you, Ethan adores me. Except for his sister, I am the most important woman in his life." "That's right. Look at yourself, a worthless piece of trash. Daring to steal a man from Miss White, you're courting death." I tried to break free, but she immediately noticed the bracelet on my wrist. A glint of malice flashed in her eyes. "What are you doing?" She snatched the bracelet, smiling sinisterly. "Such expensive things. You, a little nobody, shouldn't be able to afford it, right? Tell me, did you pester Ethan to buy it for you? This is a keepsake from my mother." Give it back. Bella laughed. I'm marrying Ethan soon. His money is my money. Using my money to buy a bracelet and not admitting it. It's true that you are a parentless nobody. No wonder you can do such a shameless thing like being a homewrecker. Two men stepped out behind her, grabbing my arms on both sides and pinning me down. Since no one taught you manners, I will do it for you. I'll let you know, the world of the wealthy is not for people of your kind. She watched me struggling with contempt, then tossed the jade bracelet to the ground. It shattered into pieces. Tears welled up instantly. Bella gave me a cold look. Take her away. I was taken to an abandoned construction site. Bella threw me on the ground. I gasped for breath. I'm Yo-Yo-Gu, Ethan's sister. You've all misunderstood. Bella paused, narrowing her eyes as she sized me up. I thought she would notice the family resemblance between Ethan and me, but the next moment she scoffed, kicking me hard in the abdomen. Do you think I'm stupid? Ethan's sister is a cripple. Everyone in Sea City knows that. You're lying to me. I was stunned. I had indeed not told Ethan that I could walk again because I wanted to give him a surprise. I didn't think that would be such a risk for me. I hate being lied to, and since you love seducing men, I'll fulfill your desire. She waved her hand and several burly men walked toward me, forcing me down. I tried to run away, but they held me firmly on the ground. The men began to tear at my clothes. My carefully styled outfit was ruthlessly torn apart, the buttons flying everywhere. Let go of me. I really am Ethan's sister. You can ask him. But Bella ignored me, instead ruthlessly taking away my last bits of modesty. You want to play the pitiful victim in front of him, right? I won't allow that. I'll make sure he sees exactly what kind of slut you are. I lay on the ground, my clothes in tatters. My skin was scraped by the rough concrete, making me appear even more pitiful. One of her followers hesitantly said, Bella, maybe we should ask Mr. Gu. Just in case. Before he could finish, Bella slapped him. Do you think you can tell me what to do? Don't forget that I am the future mistress of the Gu family. Ethan adores me. You know that, right? Even if I killed someone, he would help me cover it up, let alone deal with this little fox. Even if she is Mr. Gu's sister, I can just apologize to him, and he will forgive me. Bella was smug and proud. The others around her silently backed away. Everyone in the room was afraid of Ethan. Since you want to pretend to be Ethan's sister, I will help you act the part. His sister is a cripple. How about I make you a cripple too? I looked at her in panic as she picked up a steel pipe. Before I could say anything, an excruciating pain shot through my lower leg. The sound of bone breaking was clear and sharp. The immense pain made my vision blur. My legs had just recovered. The doctor told me not to let them be injured again. Otherwise, I would really be crippled for life. I wanted to surprise Ethan, but instead I made him even more saddened. I trembled, holding my leg, and angrily yelled at her. If you dare to hit me, my brother won't marry you. Bella's face darkened. She stomped on my leg, and the piercing pain made me dizzy. My hands were held to the ground. Dare to curse me? Her gaze was malicious as she stared at my face. If this face of yours continues to lure men, what can I do? I cannot let other women be hurt by a homewrecker like you. She pulled out a small knife. Someone righteous like me will definitely punish you for this. If I peeled off your face, would you be able to seduce any man? I tried to avoid her as she held the cold blade up to my cheek. I screamed in pain as my flesh was ripped open. Bella laughed at my pain. Great, now no man will be tempted by you. She pulled at my cheek, ripping the entire piece off. Ah! A white light flashed before my eyes, and my mind went blank, leaving only a bloody taste in my parched throat. Look at her. She is ugly now. She looks terrible. Boo-hoo. Bella covered her mouth dramatically and kicked me with disgust. Blood covered my eyes, making it impossible to see her. I could only gasp for air, my body shaking uncontrollably. I felt hot like I had been thrown in fire. I was convulsing in pain, yet I had lost all of my strength. You can have her. I don't know how long I was tortured or how many men there were. The tearing pain was overwhelming, and I wished for unconsciousness. But I was kept awake by the constant torment. I was like a broken doll devoid of life. My soul floated above. I saw Bella surrounded by people, her face still smug. Bella, you are so good at teaching people a lesson. You are so powerful and righteous. A homewrecker like that deserves the pain. But we killed her. What if Mr. Gu blames us? Bella's face darkened. It is just a homewrecker. Do you think that he would be angry with his fiancée over a nobody? Besides, if I don't teach her a harsh lesson, then what about other mistresses that might appear later? Everyone praised her vision, and Bella's ego swelled. Pack her up for me. I want to give Ethan a surprise. I was shoved into a gift box and sent to the engagement party. My brother stood on the lawn, dressed in a suit. His cold and sharp features had softened. He looked at his watch with anticipation, clearly waiting for someone. I knew he was waiting for me. Yet I lay in a box right in front of him. Bella walked in. My brother smiled. Why are you so late? She clung to his arms playfully. Ethan, I went to prepare a gift for you. My brother indulgently tapped her nose. You are always so well behaved. He followed Bella to the gift box. Here, open it. My brother smiled and opened the box. The overwhelming smell of blood made him frown. What is this? Bella hugged his arm, smiling. It is a gift I prepared for you. Do you like it? Why did you do this to her? Maybe he was unhappy about her harsh tone. Bella pouted her lips. She bullied me. Seeing that my brother did not stand by her side immediately, Bella said again. Also, she insulted Yo-Yo, Ethan. I could take the bullying, but I can't stand it when people talk about Yo-Yo. As expected, my brother's face turned cold the moment he heard my name. I tried my best to shake my head, trying to tell him that I was in the box. I was his dearest sister. But he didn't notice. Bella's followers added, That's right, Mr. Gu. She not only provoked Miss White, but also said Miss Gu was crippled. Miss White was a little heavy-handed, but she wanted to help you and Miss Gu. My brother's face grew darker and darker. Bella immediately pouted her lips, feeling wronged. That's right. I love you so much. What's wrong with that? My brother's tone was cold, looking at me like I was trash. If that is the case, then you were too lenient. He beckoned to his subordinates. Take this thing away. Bury it in a deserted field, and release the wild dogs. I watched in fear as his subordinates dragged the box away. My brother expressionlessly wiped his hands, as if nothing had happened. He hugged Bella and walked back. Let's go, Yo-Yo is coming back soon. She wanted to see you and was going to give you the keepsake her mother left behind. Dress up nicely and leave a good impression on her. Bella nodded obediently, hugging my brother's neck. I also have a surprise to tell you. The little homewrecker from earlier was actually your little mistress. You didn't recognize her, did you? He was confused and looked at her. What are you talking about? What mistress? Bella playfully tapped his chest. Still trying to hide it from me? I know about the little fox on your phone. My brother recalled it and chuckled, lightly pinching her waist. Who are you talking about? She was just an illegitimate daughter of a business partner. She's been bothering me, but I have never paid attention to her. You treated her that way. It will take time to explain it to her father. Bella rolled her eyes, not believing him. But seeing he had no intention of standing up for me, she gave it up. Okay, but you can't do anything to hurt me again. Bella snuggled into my brother's arms, and he embraced her affectionately. I stood on the side, sadly watching him ignore everything. Brother, if you knew the person who died was me, would you be this indifferent? If you knew the person you threw away to the dogs was your dearest sister, would you still love the woman in your arms? This was nothing more than an unimportant detail. The two of them immediately forgot about me and started preparing for the afternoon engagement. Bella was wearing a fancy dress. She turned a circle in front of my brother, smiling innocently just like a devil. My brother looked at her with adoration, pulled her close to him. With such a beautiful wife, how can I look at other women? Don't worry. Bella glared at him playfully, her lips pouting. You only know how to sweet-talk me. Honey, when Yo-Yo gets married, I will send her a beautiful dress too. Okay? My brother smiled and kissed her forehead. You are so sensible and kind. With you as her sister-in-law, Yo-Yo will be happy. I trembled with hatred. The woman that he described as kind-hearted and sensible was the one who murdered me. The guests started arriving. My brother kept looking at the door, his hope turning to disappointment every time. As the time for my arrival grew closer, he couldn't help but call me, but the phone just kept ringing. He became increasingly anxious, but he reassured himself again and again. It is okay, maybe the flight is delayed. Maybe she was on her way and couldn't look at her phone. Maybe she was too tired and fell asleep. My brother's brow furrowed with worry, and he felt a strong sense of unease. Someone go check? Mr. Gu. A clear female voice came from behind. The gloom on his face hadn't faded, but he was stunned the moment he turned around. His face went blank. His pupils widened as he stared at the person, and he could not believe what he saw. Why are you here? You weren't supposed to. The girl looked at him with confusion, and then broke into a smile. I heard that you are getting engaged today. I begged my dad to bring me here. I know that my status as an illegitimate daughter doesn't deserve you, so I came to give you my blessings, hey. Before she could finish speaking, my brother had ran out like the wind. I hadn't seen such a terrifying expression on my brother's face for a long time. When the subordinates handed him my flight information, my brother's face was so dark that it looked as if it could drip blood. The information showed that my flight landed at the airport 5 hours ago, meaning I should have contacted him 5 hours ago. But I was nowhere to be seen. My brother's brows furrowed, and his hands trembled uncontrollably as he held the phone. His voice was hoarse as he ordered his subordinates to investigate. A terrifying thought began to take shape in his mind. My brother pulled out a cigarette, but his hands shook so much that he couldn't light it. He hadn't smoked for a long time. He had promised me that he would quit, because the smell of smoke would make me cough. He threw the cigarette and the lighter on the floor impatiently. He swept the items on the table to the ground with a crash, but he still could not vent his frustration. Soon Secretary Zheng came in with a USB drive. He looked terrible. He had followed my brother for more than a decade, and he had never looked so embarrassed. My brother's voice was as cold as ice. Where is Yo-Yo? Secretary Zheng lowered his head, saying with difficulty, Mr. Gu, you need to be prepared. It was the surveillance video outside of the airport. My brother saw me walking out of the airport, and his eyes immediately lit up. But the next second his jaw clenched. The arrogant Bella slapped me to the ground. She was pulling my hair and kicking me with her shoes. Her followers were blocking the people who wanted to come and help me. I was lying there lonely, helplessly, and beaten by them under the public eye. My brother's expression changed from shock to angry. He was also filled with fear. He looked at the screen with a chilling gaze, almost burning through it. I was dragged into a car like they were dragging a dead dog. He could not bear it anymore. He closed his eyes, his lips had already drawn blood. He closed his laptop, his chest heaving as he tried to calm himself. But his trembling hands showed the fear inside him. Secretary Zheng said hesitantly, Mr. Gu, maybe Miss White didn't know her identity at the time, and would have released her after she found out. His voice became softer and softer, and more insecure. After all, the body that Bella sent was processed by his own hands. If that person really was Yo-Yo, he couldn't imagine what crazy things Ethan would do. Mr. Gu now. Find her. Who? Secretary Zheng didn't understand. My brother managed to speak. He didn't want to say that name. Yo-Yo. He forced the name out from between his teeth. Find her. I was lying in the morgue. My body was already disfigured from being eaten by dogs, and it was almost impossible to recognize my features. Secretary Zheng, who was used to blood and gore, could not help turning his head away. He couldn't bear to look at my body. My brother was standing in front of me like a statue, his eyes empty, as if he had lost all of his energy. Soon a doctor walked in. I recognized him. He was a friend of my brother. He was also a brother that I used to play with. His eyes were full of pity as he patted my brother on the shoulder. He opened and closed his mouth, not knowing how to tell him the news. Just say it, I can handle it. He sighed. The DNA test results will take a while. But after I checked, I found that her legs had old injuries. The current injuries were done after the wounds had healed. My brother's body trembled. Looking at the old injuries, This is indeed Yo-Yo. The doctor's eyes were red. He seemed to remember me calling him brother in the past. No one understood better than him what I had suffered before death. His fists clenched as he said angrily, "What kind of hatred could have made them do this to her?" My brother took the autopsy report. His face became paler with each line he read. When he saw that I had been assaulted by a dozen men, causing my organs to spill out, and then stuffed into a wedding gift box, he completely broke down. The report fell all over the floor, and he punched the wall, leaving a bloody print. Mr. Gu. Secretary Zhang was also filled with rage. He had watched me grow up. He gritted his teeth. "I will capture that woman and make her pay for Mrs. Life." "No," my brother said hoarsely. His face was pale, his eyes bloodshot. But his face was unexpectedly calm. It was like an emptiness that came after raging anger, or the calm before the storm. "The engagement party tonight will continue as planned." "What?" Secretary Zhang was shocked, but after following him for so long, he immediately understood. "I understand, I will prepare it." My brother changed into a suit and returned to the engagement venue. Bella had already put on her makeup. She walked up and clung to his arm, complaining about his tardiness. "Ethan, where did you go?" My brother's arm stiffened, but he answered like nothing had happened. "Something happened at the company. I went to deal with it." Bella did not notice the strangeness or the anger in his eyes. She continued talking about how great she felt while welcoming the guests. "By the way, has Yo-Yo come yet? I've prepared a gift for her." My brother froze. A smile bloomed on his face, but it did not reach his eyes. "Is that so? I have also prepared a gift for you." All the guests had arrived. Bella stood on the stage beaming with happiness. She looked like a triumphant rooster. My brother stared at everything coldly, his eyes flashing with a murderous intent. I felt a sudden pang, feeling uneasy. Bella finished her speech with a smile, then gave the microphone to my brother. Secretary Zhang pushed a cart onto the stage. It looked like it had things piled on it, and it was covered with a red cloth. "This is the gift I have prepared for my fiancée, Miss Bella White. Everyone can guess what it is." The crowd started to guess, with some saying jewelry and some saying antiques. Bella's smile grew brighter. "None of those." My brother suddenly chuckled. I felt a chill. I had seen that smile on his face before when he killed the enemies that killed our parents. The red cloth was pulled off, revealing my horrible corpse. The guests screamed in horror. Bella's face immediately lost color. She scowled and said, "Ethan, what are you doing? This is our engagement party. Why put that little fox here?" My brother's gaze was as cold as ice. "What did you call her?" Bella pouted. "Little fox, so what? Are you going to protect her? If you keep this up, we're not getting engaged today." Usually when she acted like that, my brother would immediately go up and comfort her. But he did not move today. A cold laugh was heard behind her. "Okay. The engagement is cancelled today." My brother waved his hand. A large number of bodyguards surged up, blocking all exits and preventing anyone from leaving. Bella panicked. "What are you doing? Are you going to start a fight with me over this homewrecker?" My brother kicked her hard in the chest, and Bella fell to the ground spitting out blood. "She is not a homewrecker. She is my sister, the most important person in my life." Bella was stunned. She said hesitantly, "That's impossible. Your sister is a cripple. How can she be your sister? You must have made a mistake." She crawled to Ethan's feet, grabbing the end of his pants. "Ethan, you must have made a mistake." My brother kicked her away with disgust. How could I not recognize my own sister? He grabbed Bella's hair and forced her to kneel before my corpse. He beckoned, and his bodyguards rushed into the crowd of guests. The guests were scared. Some were screaming and begging, and some were confused. The whole room was chaos. But soon they quieted down, because the bodyguards had dragged out several people and tossed them all on the stage. I recognized them. They were the people that tortured me with Bella. Bella's face instantly turned pale. She sat down on the ground, trembling as she looked at my brother. You can't do this. I'm a daughter of the White family. Do you want to fight the White family?" My father won't let you get away with this. My brother's lips curled up. I almost forgot about that. The next second, Secretary Zheng dragged a bloody man onto the stage. Bella was stunned for a moment, then she screamed, "Dad!" My brother looked at her coldly. "Since he raised a bitch like you, then he is responsible for Yo-Yo's death." Everyone on the stage was shaking in fear, and they did not dare to look at him. "What did you do to my sister?" His tone was cold. When nobody answered, he used Bella as an example. Slap, slap, and Bella's cheeks instantly became swollen. "If you confess, I will make sure you don't get it too bad." As soon as he finished speaking, the woman that helped Bella torture me raised her head. "Mr. Gu, I want to report Bella." She stepped on Mrs. Hand. I also want to report." She broke Mrs. leg with a steel pipe. Bella became enraged. "You bitches, didn't you like being my dogs? Now you dare to betray me." The others no longer cared about her. Mr. White had died, and Bella was just a stray dog. "You forced us to do it. If we dared to disobey, we would be the ones getting hurt." Bella widened her eyes in panic, watching as my brother picked up a steel pipe from the floor and walked towards her. No, you said that I was the woman you loved." "Ah." My brother was not merciful. Bella was curled up on the floor, crying from the pain of her broken legs. She also cut Mrs. Face with a knife. She ripped off Mrs. Face. They were holding Miss down and would not let her resist. Everyone was trying to save their lives. They tried to shift the blame onto others. My brother smiled coldly. He pulled out a knife from his pocket and repeated what Bella had done to me on her. Bella begged for mercy. In the end, she couldn't even speak. She was lying on the ground making ho-ho sounds. There was not a spot on her body that wasn't hurt. Some people were so scared that they wet themselves, crying and begging my brother to let them go. But my brother was already blinded by rage. He gestured at Secretary Zheng. Secretary Zheng nodded and led the bodyguards to drag these people out like sacks of potatoes. Soon wailing screams were heard outside. Bella was trembling all over. She tried to open her eyes and look at the man that used to share sweet nothings with her. She was supposed to marry him soon, and the two of them were planning their wedding. How did it end up like this? Does it hurt? Are you scared? My brother pulled out a pair of scissors and started cutting her clothes. As if she had realized something, Bella started to make a woo-woo sound in her throat. Her eyes pleaded as she tried to struggle, but it was all useless. Do you think that Yo-Yo was also this helpless? She was only 18 and was so young. Her life just started. But you took it all away. My brother's voice was calm, but it had a chill that made people shiver. Do you think you deserve to die? He leaned closer to Bella's ears. If I don't make you go through what she has been through, how would I be able to let you die? A dozen scary-looking men came out behind him. They were recently released from prison. They should be able to satisfy you, right? Bella's eyes filled with despair as she watched these men with dangerous looks coming towards her. Screams filled the room. My brother opened the door. The night had already silently arrived. The scared guests rushed out. He did not stop them. My brother walked back to my side and glanced at the dying Bella. He wrapped me up carefully and held me in his arms. I looked at him with worry. Mr. Gu, you have gone too far this time. It will not be easy to settle. Secretary Zheng walked in. He saw Bella on the ground who was already still, and he frowned. You should leave with Miss first. I will handle the aftermath. But my brother did not move. He gently put my body in Secretary Zheng's arms. Secretary Zheng was stunned. Mr. Gu, what are you doing? Sirens were heard outside. Some of the guests must have reported the crime. Secretary Zheng said sternly, Mr. Gu, you should go. My brother's eyes were hollow. He chuckled softly. I am not going anywhere. I promised Yo-Yo that I would not hurt others. I broke my promise. I deserve to be punished. He started to walk out. I screamed in fear. I lifted my arms to stop him, but he just walked right through my body. I tried to grab him to hold him, but he did not feel anything. His sharp eyes were now lifeless, like he had lost all hope. Brother, don't go out. Tears poured out. I had never been this afraid. Not even the fear of death could compare to the fear of losing my brother. I ran to Secretary Zheng and started to pat him. Uncle Zheng quickly stopped my brother. They will arrest him, he will die. But Secretary Zheng did not go forward this time. He hugged my body tightly and turned away with sadness in his eyes. Then he sighed deeply and turned around to leave. My brother was taken away by the police. Unexpectedly, he confessed to all of his crimes. Even the lawyer that Secretary Zheng found was kicked out by him. The incident shook the whole of Sea City, and all of the media were reporting the tragedy. My brother's enemies wanted to take advantage of the situation, but they were stopped by Secretary Zheng. I was buried in a cemetery, along with my mom and dad. Maybe I was finally at peace, but my soul was slowly becoming clearer, and I was starting to disappear. But I did not want to disappear. I hadn't waited for my brother yet. The news came suddenly. My brother committed suicide in the detention center. He didn't leave a single word, except a note. It read, "I'm coming to join you." My brother's funeral was simple. He was buried next to me. I lay on the tombstone, my mind cloudy, but I used all my remaining strength to force myself not to fall asleep. Wait, just wait, my brother would come to be with me soon. But my body became lighter and lighter, and I floated into the air. No, I don't want to disappear. I haven't seen my brother yet. Tears poured down again. This time, a small drop of water landed on the tombstone. People who came to mourn did not notice the abnormality, but my mind became clearer. Yo-yo! A familiar voice came from behind me. I smiled. Our family was finally together again.